I always thought I knew my son. Every parent does, right? You spend years raising them, watching their habits, listening to their laughter, and even their silence. You think you can predict what they'll say, how they'll act, what they're hiding. That was my mistake. I thought I had him figured out. I thought I was in control. But the truth is, I was blind, and what I didn't see nearly destroyed us both. I should probably back up. I'm 47 years old, a night shift nurse at a busy hospital. That kind of job eats your life whole. The hours are brutal, and the things I see would make most people lose sleep. I come home when the sun is rising, collapse into bed, and try to squeeze in a few hours of rest before doing it all again. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. And as a single parent, the bills never stop. My son, let's call him Ethan, is 15. He's not the kind of kid who causes daily chaos. He's quieter, more withdrawn, and sometimes I convinced myself that was a blessing. No cops at the door, no calls from the principal, no screaming matches. But the quiet ones, they hold their secrets close, and I didn't see that until it was too late. Ethan spends a lot of time in his room. Typical teenager stuff, I told myself. Headphones on, computer glowing late at night, door closed with a firm, "Don't come in." I grew up in a different era where privacy wasn't a sacred right for kids, but I wanted to be a better parent. Give him space. Respect his boundaries. I thought I was being progressive. In reality, I was giving him the perfect hiding place. Our days together felt routine, almost mechanical. I'd get home from work and find him half awake, scrolling on his phone at the kitchen table. Breakfast was usually cereal or cold pizza. I'd ask, "How was school?" and he'd mumble, "Fine," without looking up. I'd try again. "Anything interesting happen?" He'd shrug. That was our rhythm. Short exchanges, walls built higher each week. The first real crack in the picture-perfect routine came one Thursday morning. I was digging through the laundry basket when I noticed something unusual. Ethan's jeans pocket had a crumpled receipt tucked deep inside. I smoothed it out and saw it was from an electronics store downtown. Expensive hardware, nothing I had ever bought. I remember staring at the paper, confused. Where did he get the money for this? When I asked him later, he brushed it off. "Oh, I'm just fixing stuff for a friend," he said casually. His tone was steady, his face unreadable. I wanted to push further, but I didn't. I told myself not to be paranoid. He was smart, good with computers. Maybe it was nothing. Still, that receipt burned in the back of my mind like a warning I chose to ignore. Weeks passed. Small things piled up. Packages arrived at our doorstep with his name on them. Strange brands, no return addresses I recognized. He'd rushed to grab them before I could see. Once, I caught a glimpse of circuit boards and wires inside one box. When I asked, he snapped, "It's for a school project, don't worry about it." His sharpness startled me. Ethan had never raised his voice to me before. Then there were the late nights. I'd come home from a 12-hour shift, and his room would still glow with the blue light of his monitor. Sometimes I'd hear him talking in low tones, almost whispering. Once, around 3 in the morning, I pressed my ear to the door. The rapid clicking of keys filled the silence, followed by bursts of laughter. Who was he talking to? "Ethan," I called softly. "It's late. Go to bed." "Okay, Mom," came the quick reply. The typing stopped instantly. The speed of his response unsettled me. Like he had been caught in the middle of something he didn't want me to hear. But again I pulled back. I told myself, he's just being a teenager. Don't suffocate him. Looking back, I wonder if I ignored the signs because I was too tired to face them. My job drained me. By the time I stumbled through the front door, I barely had the energy to make dinner, let alone interrogate my son about his locked doors and mysterious packages. Exhaustion became my excuse, and he knew how to use it. One Saturday afternoon, while cleaning the kitchen, I noticed his backpack left on a chair. The zipper was half open, and inside I saw notebooks stacked tight. One slid out when I moved the bag. Across the cover in bold black marker he'd written, "Do not open." My hands hovered. I wanted to respect his privacy, but curiosity gnawed at me. Finally, I flipped the cover. The pages were filled with codes, strings of numbers and letters, sketches of software diagrams. My stomach tightened. This wasn't doodling or homework. It looked advanced, far beyond anything a sophomore in high school should be casually scribbling down. "Mom!" I nearly jumped out of my skin. Ethan was standing in the doorway, his expression sharp. His voice carried an edge I'd never heard before. "What are you doing?" he demanded. Your bag fell. I was just picking it up." The excuse sounded weak even to my ears. He walked over, snatched the notebook from my hands, and shoved it back into his bag. "Don't touch my stuff." The tension between us that night was unbearable. He avoided me completely, retreating into his room and locking the door. I sat at the kitchen table staring at my cold cup of coffee, replaying the moment. Something was wrong. I knew it in my bones. But instead of confronting him, I let fear win. I told myself maybe it's just advanced schoolwork. Maybe he's building apps or gaming mods. I wanted to believe it was harmless, that my son was simply brilliant in a way I didn't understand. But deep down, a small voice whispered, "No, this is more than that." The weeks that followed felt like living with a stranger. Ethan became more secretive. He'd disappear for hours after school with vague explanations. His once decent grades slipped, and when teachers emailed me about missed assignments, he insisted they were wrong. His lies grew smoother, easier. I felt him slipping further away, and I didn't know how to pull him back. I kept circling back to one thought. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe I was just an overworked nurse seeing shadows where there weren't any. But the truth lingered in the pit of my stomach. Something was brewing behind that locked bedroom door. And as much as I wanted to deny it, I knew the day would come when I'd have no choice but to find out. I tried to convince myself everything was fine. Parents do that. We cling to the idea that our kids are just kids, that the strange behavior is temporary, just part of growing up. But deep down, I knew Ethan's distance wasn't normal. Something had shifted. I could feel it every time I passed his closed door, every time I saw the guarded look in his eyes. It all came to a head one night in early spring. I'd just finished a brutal shift at the hospital. My feet ached, my eyes burned, and all I wanted was to collapse on the couch. The house was silent except for the faint hum of Ethan's computer upstairs. I dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes, and poured myself a glass of water. That's when I heard it. Laughter. Not his usual kind. The light, goofy laugh I remembered from when he was little, but something sharper. Hushed voices followed, muffled through the walls. My stomach tightened. At first I thought he might have snuck a friend over, but it was past midnight. Who shows up at that hour without me noticing? I crept upstairs, careful not to let the steps creak. The closer I got, the clearer the noises became. The rapid tapping of keys, a distorted voice from his speakers, and Ethan's low murmurs. He was talking to someone. I stopped outside his door, frozen. My heart thudded against my ribs. Part of me wanted to knock and demand answers, but another part whispered, "Don't. You might not like what you find." Still, I couldn't walk away. I leaned in, pressing my ear to the wood. "Yeah, I got it," Ethan whispered. "The transfer went through." Transfer. My chest clenched. Money. Drugs. I felt a wave of panic rising in my throat. I heard another burst of laughter, then silence, followed by more typing. The words were faint, but I caught them. "Nobody will trace it back. Relax." I pulled back, my mind racing. This wasn't harmless gaming or late-night chatting with friends. This was something bigger, darker. And it was happening in my house, under my nose. I took a deep breath and knocked. "Ethan." The noises stopped instantly. After a pause, his voice came, too quick, too forced. "Yeah. It's late. Go to bed," I said, trying to sound casual. "I will. Just finishing homework." Homework. At 1 a.m. I stood there, staring at the door, gripping the handle. My hand shook. Every instinct screamed at me to walk away, but I couldn't. Not this time. I turned the knob. It wasn't locked. Slowly I pushed it open. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of his computer screens. He had 3 of them now, arranged in a semicircle, code and windows flashing across them like something out of a movie. Ethan sat in the middle, his back rigid, eyes wide as he turned toward me. "Mom!" His voice cracked. "What are you doing?" I froze in the doorway. The air felt heavy, charged. I heard voices. "Who are you talking to?" "Nobody. Just a video," he stammered, fumbling to close windows on his monitor. But not fast enough. My eyes caught glimpses, lines of code, a chat box with usernames I didn't recognize, numbers scrolling in endless streams. "Don't lie to me, Ethan." My voice was low, steady, but my chest was pounding. "What is this?" He stood abruptly, blocking the screens with his body. "It's nothing. Just a project. You wouldn't understand." "Try me," I said. His lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment I saw fear flash across his face. Real fear, the kind that twists your stomach. I stepped into the room, the glow of the monitors casting eerie shadows across the walls. Wires snaked across the floor, connecting machines I didn't recognize. On the desk, piles of receipts, notebooks filled with more of those strange codes, and a locked box with a digital pad. My hands trembled as I picked up one notebook. "Stop!" Ethan snatched it from me. "Don't touch that." I stared at him, my throat dry. "Ethan, what are you involved in?" His eyes darted toward the screens, then back to me. "You don't get it," he muttered. "It's not bad, it's different. I'm good at it." "Good at what?" Silence stretched between us. The only sound was the hum of the computers. Finally he whispered, "Hacking." The word hit me like a punch. My legs nearly gave out. I gripped the edge of the desk to steady myself. "You're what?" "I can do things online," he said quickly, words tumbling over themselves. "Stuff people will pay for. Security testing, transfers, information. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just using my skills." "Using your skills." My voice rose despite myself. "Ethan, this is illegal. Do you understand what could happen to you? To us?" He flinched but didn't back down. "I'm not stupid. Nobody knows it's me. Cover everything. It's safe." "Safe?" Echoed. My mind reeled. Images of police at the door, headlines, ruined futures. "This is not safe. This could ruin your life." His jaw tightened. "You don't understand. You never do. You're always gone. You don't see me. This is the only thing I'm good at. The only place I matter." The words sliced through me. I wanted to argue, to yell, but I couldn't. Because underneath my anger was guilt. Guilt that he was right. I had been gone. I had missed the signs. But still this. I forced myself to speak. "Ethan, you need to stop. Tonight. Before this goes any further." He shook his head. "It's not that simple." "Then make it simple," I shot back. "Because if you don't, I will. Do you hear me? I'll call the police myself if that's what it takes." His eyes widened, a mix of shock and betrayal. "You'd ruin me like that." "I'd save you," I said, my voice breaking. "Even if you hate me for it." The silence that followed was unbearable. He looked at me, really looked at me, and for a brief second I saw the scared boy beneath the hardened mask. But then the walls slammed back into place. "Get out," he whispered. "Ethan." "Get out," he shouted, louder this time. His face red, eyes shining with something between rage and desperation. I backed toward the door, my chest tight, my mind spinning. I wanted to hold him, to shake him, to scream, to beg. Instead I whispered, "This isn't over," and pulled the door shut behind me. Down the hall, I leaned against the wall, my body trembling. The house was quiet again, but it was the wrong kind of quiet, the kind that follows a storm, heavy with the promise of more to come. For the first time I realized how little I knew about my own son. And worse, how far gone he already was. That night changed everything. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with everything I had seen. Those screens, the codes, the fear in Ethan's eyes when he admitted it. Hacking. My son wasn't just hiding harmless secrets. He was living in a world that could destroy him. At sunrise, I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of cold coffee. Every creak of the house made my chest tighten. Ethan eventually came downstairs, his face pale, dark circles under his eyes. He wouldn't meet my gaze. He poured cereal, sat across from me, and chewed in silence like nothing had happened. Finally broke it. "We need to talk." He sighed, pushing his bowl away. "About what?" "You know about what," I said firmly. "Last night." His spoon clattered in the bowl. "I told you, it's not as bad as you think." "Not as bad." I leaned forward, voice sharp. "You're breaking the law. Do you understand how serious this is? If the wrong person finds out, it won't matter how smart you are. You'll be in handcuffs." For a moment, his bravado cracked. He looked younger, smaller, like the boy who used to run to me after nightmares. Then his face hardened. "You don't get it." "Nobody does." "Then help me understand," I said. My voice softened. "Please, tell me why you're doing this." He hesitated, fingers drumming against the table. Finally he spoke, his words low, almost bitter. "Because it's the only thing I'm good at. School, I'm invisible. Home, you're always gone. Online, I matter. People respect me there. They pay me. They listen to me. You don't know what that feels like." The guilt hit me like a wave. I had been gone, wrapped up in my job, too tired to notice him slipping away. But my guilt couldn't erase the danger. "Ethan," I said carefully, "I'm sorry if I wasn't there enough. Mean that. But this isn't the answer. You're gambling with your future." He glared at me. "What future?" "College we can't afford. A dead-end job like yours where you work all night and come home broken. No thanks." The words cut deep, but I didn't let it show. "So your solution is crime." "It's not crime," he snapped. "It's skill. Companies hire people like me all the time. I'm just ahead of the curve." I shook my head. "That's not how it works. Not when you're hiding behind fake names and stealing from people. It doesn't matter how you justify it. You're crossing lines you can't uncross." His jaw clenched. "So what, you're going to turn me in? Be the hero nurse who busted her own kid?" The challenge in his tone stung. "I don't want to ruin you," I said quietly. "I want to save you. Because if I don't, someone else will, and they won't care about your future." Silence filled the room. The only sound was the ticking of the old clock on the wall. Finally he whispered, "I don't know how to stop." The honesty in his voice broke me. For the first time he sounded less like a criminal and more like a lost boy. I reached across the table, placing my hand over his. He didn't pull away. "Then we'll figure it out together. But this ends now. No more secrets. No more late-night deals. You need help, and I won't let you fight this alone." Tears welled in his eyes, though he blinked them away quickly. "You promise you won't hate me?" "Hate you?" My throat tightened. "Ethan, I could never hate you. I hate what you're doing, but I love you. That's why I'm fighting so hard to pull you back." For the first time in months, he looked directly at me. Vulnerability flickered in his eyes, and I knew I had reached him. But I also knew trust wouldn't be rebuilt overnight. That afternoon I made calls. I reached out to a counselor at his school, explained just enough to get help without revealing every detail. I contacted an old friend who worked in cybersecurity, asked about programs for teenagers with talent who needed direction. And hardest of all, I sat Ethan down and told him the consequences if he kept going. The legal ones, the personal ones, the ones he couldn't escape. He resisted at first. He rolled his eyes, crossed his arms, muttered that I was overreacting. But slowly, piece by piece, the fight drained out of him. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was relief that someone had finally seen past the walls he'd built. That night, I stood at his doorway while he powered down the screens. For the first time, the room looked dark, ordinary. No flickering code, no glowing chats. Just a teenager crawling into bed, looking younger than his years. "Good night, Mom," he murmured. It was such a simple phrase, but it nearly broke me. I hadn't heard him say it in months. "Good night, Ethan," I whispered back. The days that followed weren't easy. He was moody, defensive, sometimes angry. But there were moments, small, fragile ones, that gave me hope. He started joining me for breakfast again. He came out of his room more often. He even asked me to watch a movie with him one evening, something we hadn't done in years. I know the road ahead will be long. The trust between us is cracked, maybe even shattered in places. But I also know this. That night when I opened his door, I could have lost him forever. Instead, I was given a chance to fight for him. And I won't waste it. Even now, I still wonder, what would have happened if I'd walked away? If I'd kept ignoring the signs, telling myself everything was fine? Would the knock on our door have been the police? Would my son have vanished into a world I couldn't reach? I don't have those answers, and maybe I never will. But I do know one thing. That night changed everything. And maybe, just maybe, it saved us both.